Have we all got a cuppa? Because we're probably going to need it for this astrology transit. Sit back, guys, grab a cuppa, and let's get into the deep of this transit and how to get the best out of it. Are we ready? A very warm welcome to YILDIZ Readings 5D. For those of you that don't know, I'm a psychic medium. I cover astrology, soul coaching, twin flame path, and more. I am live weekly, so please click the bell and subscribe. And if you do want more creative content like this, come and join the tribe. Now for the join button, the link is directly below on the main page. You do get exclusive Your Eyes Only content, twin flame coaching, pre-release content, and the extension reads. Without further ado, let's get into the video, and I'll see you every Friday. Take care, guys. Hi, we're here to talk about the solar eclipse in Gemini, and this video is going to cover how you can handle this transit, how it's going to directly deal with your direct zodiac sign, how we can be experiencing these things, but also how to keep grounded through this transit. Now, you may find that the tension points are going to actually come up, and that can be almost like an after effect of the total eclipse in Sagittarius, because it is the shadow sign. It's also the south node, so some of these things can be seeping over and playing out simultaneously, coming into the mix with the solar eclipse in Gemini. Now, Gemini is very Mercury in energy. It's very communication, thought, action, your tribe, you know, your groups, and we can have a little bit of pack mentality coming through, especially during this eclipse in Gemini. Because we do have Mercury retrograde, it can be really amplifying and intensifying some of these frustrations with us. And you do tend to find with a new moon, it's a new beginning, but yet again, we can't have a new beginning without making sense of where we're going and having an ending. And that does become more complicated when we are having Mercury retrograde in the same house. You can find at the moment you can't see the hay for the clouds. You may be standing very firm on your value systems, and especially because we do have quite a few planets at the moment in the house of Cancer, it can be intensifying such. The full moon that we're having directly after this event is going to be in the house of Capricorn. So very similar to when we had the nodes in Cancer and Capricorn, we can feel almost like a return of the Mac. It's like we feel like we're going backwards, not going forwards. We may have a lot of experiences that are directly being shared on media, and we may have very fixed values initially. It can feel as though there is a lot of gossip, and I know I do actually use the tarot for readings, and definitely speaking within each zodiac sign, relating subject matters relating to both Mercury and gossip have been coming through. So yes, it can be that we're needing to learn different ways, we're needing to hear other people's perspectives, and initially it may feel a lot to digest. Mercury is very throat and thought and action. So in order to consume such, if it's against the grain of our beliefs, we may initially feel like it's gag reflux. I'll just say it may not fit. And there's no right or wrong, and that's the awkwardness of this eclipse, is there really is no right or wrong. It's not one shoe is going to fit all. And I think the frustration is, at a collective level, we're trying to bridge the gap or pull people into believing our viewpoints, or what is right, what is wrong, how can we sort the world? One thought process. And for everyone to come to a consensus of such would be an impossibility. So I call it the Cinderella effect. We're not going to be able to make everyone hold our same values, but where can we directly in society be able to accept such and still coincide in a very peaceful kind of format? Due to the fact that we have Mars in Cancer, it is in its detriment, and it's not in its happy place. Mars energizes things, which what it's energizing at the moment is wounds, emotions. It's over emotional. The zodiac sign is very intuition, it's very moon orientated, but it's also currently we are having the eclipse in Gemini. So yes, it can really amplify those Cancerian traits, as well as our belief systems inside of culture and religion, and then add the Mercury to the mix, and it's a little bit like a cauldron of all sorts. So we do need to be mindful that, yes, our emotions at this point can be intensified, and that self-mastery is really going to be important to know when these things are coming up. And yes, particular zodiac signs are really going to feel those placements very intensely. So I do feel to have purpose, you know, it's almost like if there is a dynamic playing out, you're almost having to remove yourself from white noise. And this is really a very important time to be careful with travels, and that can be driving, concentration, cognitive ability. So, you know, if you were using, for instance, mechanical devices, a forklift or anything to that degree, you're really having to be so super present, but things during Mercury retrograde come at you a lot quicker. So yes, in your circle of concern, you may have control over you, but the reality is we don't have control of environment, and the things around us. They have their own circle of concern. So it's these rotating cycles that's coming through, and it's being in awareness and attempting to, at this time, be as present as possible. Inside of families and homes, and, you know, our ability to provide, again, with Venus being in the house of Cancer, we may need a lot of nurturing. We may have concerns over being able to provide for ourselves, our home, our sustenance, our emotions, trying to be too many things. And there is this spiritual core at the moment that Jupiter is asking us to look at a different way, to look at a healthy way we can do such, not to get caught in our minds. That the mind can be the place of spirituality, but the mind can be the place of spiritual imprisonment. Now we're going to quickly look at the charts, and then we're going to get back into the conversation, and then talk about how these positions are going to affect you, and try and give you some tips to be able to cope with this. Let's have a look. Now above we have the positions of the aspects that are playing out and that are yet to come. So yes, the solar eclipse is happening on the 10th. It is at 19 degrees, and it can take up to 2 weeks, but this is a transformative cycle over 6 to 12 months. The sun is in the house of Gemini at the moment, up until the 21st, where it transits into the house of Cancer. Mars currently is in its position of Cancer, which is a bit tough, but it's transferring over into the house of Leo. Venus entered Cancer on the 2nd, and it is transferring over to Leo. But at the moment, with those Cancer placements, it can be really agitated at the moment. Now Mercury retrograde, as I mentioned, is retrograde until the 22nd, so things can be coming at you quite quickly. There can be confusion and agitation, and add Cancer into the mix, and yes, her emotions can be quite volatile. You may find at this time some themes to do with February coming up, and that's due to the fact that we have Saturn retrograde in the house of Aquarius up until October the 11th, as well as we're having our second square with Uranus and Taurus squaring Saturn in Aquarius. Now, if you think back, the first Mercury retrograde was in the house of Aquarius, and we had the first square February the 17th. So yes, themes can replay out. Pluto also is retrograde in the house of Capricorn at the moment up until October the 6th, and Neptune is getting ready to go retrograde. Things may make more sense during this time. So we can see the clarity relating to both Jupiter in Pisces and Neptune in Pisces simultaneously, and find some clarity through the haze of the clouds. Now, Jupiter in Pisces is retrograde from June the 20th till October the 18th. The full moon that we're having come up next is in the house of Capricorn on the 24th of June at 3 degrees, but we'll talk about that next. Now, last but not least, do be prepared. We are having Aries and Chiron next month go retrograde. So the work you're doing spiritually now is preparing you for next month and for the future steps that you may need to take. Really important to keep grounded. Let's get into your zodiacs to see how this can be playing out. Okay, now due to the fact we're having the eclipse in Gemini, we're going to start off with the air signs. And I do want to really mention that for the air signs, this can be a very unique transit. Now, we will start off with Gemini, and I'll try and timestamp these so you'll have the Zodiac sign above the screen as well as the element, and you can stream forward and stream back. Now, with you guys, Gemini, number one, your shadow sign is Sagittarius. So you may have had some revelations relating to your romantic connections, your work projects, and there might have been a halt. And you may find this can be a time of reversal of fortune, but also where your power stands. Now, I found the experience of 1st and 7th house very full of education. It was very tough, so it can be a very testing time emotionally. You may find that you have epiphanies where you have been standing in your way. And I really felt through the transit when we had the Cancer Capricorn axis, I have Cancer in my chart, that a lot of my viewpoints of what I felt other people wanted of me or what I was needing of another directly transformed through that area. Being that it's 1st house placement, you may find that you're really wanting to change your wardrobe, your demeanor. There can be misunderstandings. It is a new moon, but again, the North Node's there. It's added pressure that's placed upon you that you may be feeling energetically from universe, and emotions definitely can be coming up at this time. Now, your income source, you may have been working incredibly hard, and you may have had worry surrounding finances. That might have been due to having commitments or due to maybe being unwell or having wounds. But again, it's really deeply highlighted, and money relating to home may have been really coming through quite a bit. Some of you may have been working from home. Others of you may have had a lot to do and really not wanting to deal with emotional outbursts. So that may have been a very frustrating situation. Self-worth, you may have really surprised yourself that some of the things that you were feeling at an emotional level or spoke, it may actually take you by surprise. But it is a very healing time that if we are, and it's not necessarily that this is the perfect time to be airing our dirty laundry, our emotional recycle bin, but yes, it can happen because you have both the 1st and the 2nd house placement. I do feel the pressure off your financial income can dissipate as we do move forward. But again, there can be expenses when it does come to home, but you'll have the energy once we have Mars move over into the house of Leo to be able to tackle those circumstances. I would say really, guide yourself into this. Don't feel necessarily you're going to feel fantastic. It could take a good 2 weeks to adjust. Any firm decisions I would make more after Mercury goes direct, or during Mercury going direct rather, because this can be a very confusing time, but I do feel that a lot of you will be really wanting your own time. If you are socializing, which it can be a very social month, try and be careful to understand when to retreat. Be careful of the circle that you're mixing with. We tend to vibrate similar to other people. Unfortunately, at a collective level, both with the eclipse and then Mars being in Cancer, this can amplify energies, and also I would say be cautious with emotional eating. Libra. Now, I was really wondering why this month the air signs were coming up quite loudly. And I do feel with the air signs, there is this balance at the moment. The balance can be coming through a belief system, a value, something that's happening that we really haven't gained our bearings on. Plus to do with paradigms and society, religion and values, all these themes are coming up. Libra, for you guys, in the work domain, I would say maybe there has been a little bit of stagnancy. It's like pushing a wheelbarrow uphill, and that can be for all of us collectively. Next month, we are having Chiron and Aries go retrograde, so there can be deep reflection upon connections. And especially because we have Mars in Cancer, you may have been working very hard. Now, I do feel this is almost for you guys a reversal of fortune. So depending on the industry you're working in, you may find that it actually grows more so towards the end of the month than it did at the beginning. This can be a financial time, but you are looking at different ways you can actually approach circumstances. I do feel that healthy boundaries and leveling up and trying to achieve these things during Mercury retrograde can be a little bit testing. And you are guided to try and keep as grounded and, I wouldn't say patient, but tension can definitely come from, for some of you, if you're working from home in your career sector, or it may be family related dynamics, you know, maybe for those of you who are single parents and trying to balance that energy, but also other people's emotional energy, how it directly can impact you, because you do have Cancer in the 10th house. I do feel a lot is changing, especially because of the Cancer Capricorn axis in each of our charts. It's revisiting those areas, but also integrating this new vibration with the North and South Node. Now, the eclipse in Sagittarius was hitting your 3rd house, and this can be misunderstandings, tying up loose ends, anything to do with siblings. Moving forward, the eclipse in Gemini, as I mentioned, does link to your 9th house. So this is a really good time to start new ways in blogging, advertising. It could be travel that you're looking at. But spiritually, there can be a huge transformation. You may initially feel that people do not understand who you are, what you're about. You may be very attracted to a different culture. You may be thinking outside the box spiritually. This may be a time that some of you are wanting to look at studying, skilling, and expanding. This also can be for those of you in the area of trades and sales that you are looking outside the box relating to such also. I do feel some tension in your zodiac, and that was directly because I had channeled your zodiac sign and I was feeling so much energy. As I mentioned, next month we're having Aries and Chiron go retrograde, and this can be a time that you can be reflecting upon connections. Anything else I need to tell you? Do be prepared for unexpected, especially when it does come to money, shared resources, and some of you may get a gift from a loved one, from a family member, but also looking at, you know, your insurances and your taxation and your legacies, making sure your paperwork's in order. But definitely there could be a sudden change in fortune when it does come to that 8th house placement. I would say home-related expenses in the weeks coming can come up, and this can be broken white goods and things to that degree. But again, it's really the sturdy items you'll find that you're directly going for due to the fact of the transformation inside your zodiac sign. Okay, Aquarius. Now, number one, I did mention that with Saturn retrograde, you can be reflecting upon your social responsibilities, your connections, and you may be having issues inside of groups. Now, that can be with family members, it can be with love interests, it can be people not understanding you, maybe being a mediator similar to the zodiac sign Cancer, and that can be causing some tension. Now, I'm going to have a look at your chart. Okay, now sudden changes between the 11th and the 17th can be playing out, but they can tend to be on the day of the square, which is occurring on June the 14th. Now, the first square occurred February the 17th, and that was Uranus and Taurus squaring Saturn and Aquarius, and it is your first house placement, so you could be really reflecting upon how you had parts and situations, how you're juggling tasks in your life as well as other people. Friendship groups might have been quite testing, as well as your social responsibilities and being in circles, be it it's with family, with work colleagues, with romance and other. People could be really irritating you, but at this point I think as long as you can step back from the fire, you can actually see a different viewpoint from the storyline. I do feel some of you could feel a little bit anxious, and it's important to eat healthy food groups to balance your nervous system. Uranus and Taurus and Aquarius is very much Uranian energy, and it is nervous system. So eating healthy food groups, you know, getting your greens in, getting a little bit of exercise to de-stress, and definitely a great time to detox. Be careful for the emotional eating, and I feel this is so for most of the zodiac signs. You can be thinking of creative ways you can expand your cash component, but you may find sudden changes in accommodation, sudden expenses due to travel, or your daily routine. Now, the eclipse is landing in the 5th house, and this can be growing pains. This can be transformative. It can also feel like, a little bit like a sudden return. Now, 5th house placement, you can fall pregnant, you can be quite fertile, but it also can be leaving one way of doing something and beginning a new. And this can be a creative project, shifting it about. Maybe if you're very artistic in nature, or you have, your social activities, you may find that changes can be happening in that domain. Now, I do feel, keep the schedule flexible, but keep a little bit back for a rainy day. I do feel you may have information that does come towards you, and it feels that this could be a opportunity for employment. This can be a, how can I explain it? What are they showing me? It's like landing an opportunity. This could be a creative deal or something inside a field. You also could have a golden opportunity for socialization. But your creative projects, you are ending one way of doing things and starting a new. But this definitely can be a very fertile time. I do feel emotionally you may be both on a level up level and an emotional level, trying to move beyond the wound. This may have in the past hindered you, but these themes can be coming up, and family can be a point of contention. This can be with your own children, your own emotions, trying to tackle things and juggle and feeling quite overwhelmed. It will move, but at the moment with Mars and Cancer, it's important to look after your health. As we have Mars move over to Leo, this can strengthen or change, but it's going to amplify things of connections. But we'll go into that later. I would say your social groups and maybe an idea that you had may change, but I feel a lot more will make more sense as Neptune goes retrograde, and you'll find creative ways and more practical ways to use your cash. Okay, we're going to get on to the next elements, and towards the end of the video we are going to do a guided meditation. So sit through, drag forward, drag back for the zodiacs. Okay, fire signs, let's have a look at yours. Now, we'll start off with Aries. Now, as I mentioned, we are having transits at the moment really relating to Mars and your finances, because Mars is the energy that we can place in. We do have Aries and Chiron there. The eclipse for you guys, let's have a look at the chart. I'm all in my Mercury head at the moment. Okay, it's hitting your 3rd house, so be super careful traveling. Also with the communication sector, there could be information coming through. I do feel people may misunderstand you at this point. And again, it is to do with those, social responsibilities of communicating effectively. And at the moment, because Mercury is in the house of Gemini and it is retrograde and the eclipse is happening there, cross wires can occur in misunderstandings. Now, at the moment, you could have a home-related dynamic going on that is intensifying that circumstance. And again, values relating to home, the things that you're needing to deal with. You may be, again, trying to renovate it, trying to move, conflict over it. There could be legislation. So whatever that frustration is that you're directly linking to, be it it's your daily routine or direct family members and emotions, trying to get grounded, tackling those tasks and communicating effectively. Cross wires are going to occur, but they can level out, and there also could be transformations happening in your career sector. Now, I would say try and keep grounded during this time. I don't feel that any one zodiac sign won't directly be affected, but definitely for your zodiac sign, there could be some intensity. Leo. Now, because the eclipse both correlates with sun and moon, you guys are sun in energy. You're also heart chakra. Pay attention to your heart health. And, you know, for the next 2 to 3 months, eating healthy food groups, keeping away from, you know, food that's really heavy, looking after your auric field, but also moving things about where you can within your circle of concern. Now, the eclipse is landing in your 11th house, and this can be, again, your hopes and dreams and aspirations. It also can be something to do with a group. But it also can be, you know, you wanting to be there for everyone. And that can be a little bit testing, especially because you do have Cancer on the 12th house. So your thoughts and your emotions, you can be really struggling with that and trying to make peace with it. This can be protection. This can be trying to find solutions. We can't save the world, but we can actually reach peace with things. And if there have been wounds that have been coming up for you, you know, it is going to dissipate, especially as we move beyond the 14th. Tension can come up around the 14th, surrounding your career, and it can be sudden changes, but I do feel as you move things about, it is setting that momentum and that forward motion. So it'll be an example of what to shift. It can happen quite suddenly with the square, but it can really benefit you. And I really call Uranus and Taurus squaring Saturn a box of chocolates like Forrest Gump, due to the fact that you can get the yin to the yang. This can be sudden movement and a brand new career. This could be money coming in from a different source. So trust the process, but know it's always for our high good. And we may feel very rebellious at the moment, all of us collectively, due to the fact of the Cancer placements and Mercury in retrograde. Sagittarius. Now, we did just move through the eclipse in Sagittarius, and yes, the shadow sign for you and the North Node is Gemini. So yes, Sag, you guys are getting here as well. You may find that you personally have just moved through a transformation, and it may be flowing, you know, but at the same time, I do feel a lot of heavy energy can be playing out. Almost like a mishmash of both frequencies coming through at this time, and that's both of the eclipse in Sagittarius and the eclipse in Gemini. And I feel they're kind of like trying to merge together, and this can be you and other people, this can be you and your work projects. And being that it's a new moon, it can be a sudden shift and change. So yes, for some this can be changes and connections. It can be upgrades and connections. But it's a brand new way you're going to operate within this, depending on the zodiac sign that you're directly linking to. For some of you, this can be money coming in. This can also be the way you relate and communicate. It could be a bit testing. So just be careful on the work front with your friendship groups. You know, not to take things personal, but understand that everyone collectively can be very, very tense. As it does shift, this can also be pressure on your finances, where you are, you know, looking at, can you depend on someone? What can you directly depend on? This can be tax, it can be partner's money. Wanting that deep intimacy, but maybe feeling that, again, you can't, you know, people needing on you, or you needing on them, and guilt associated to it. So there is this Libra energy of scales going on, but it can intensify and roll over, very similar to a volcano. Now, I would say some of you could travel for work. And I do find with the 1st and the 7th house, very similar to Libra, it's like a swap of fortune. So for some of you, this can be that growth is happening in this area, but also transformation and change. But this could be direct movement in your career field and changes about with it. It is also in your romantic sector. Okay, we're going to get on to earth signs, Taurus, Virgo, and Capricorn. And we're going to talk about Taurus first, due to the fact that we're having the square to Saturn and Aquarius on the 14th of June at 10:08 a.m. Now that square can intensify, plus the Venus element of things can be shaking things up. Let's have a look at your chart. Where I do feel it's really important to watch with travel. I do feel it's really important to communicate, and I feel, emotionally speaking, you may have a lot of things going on relating to family and running around and errands. So it can be a bit of a tense time at the moment. You do need to concentrate, and this can be frustrating if you feel that everything is everywhere. I do feel surrounding this eclipse, it is happening, it's hitting your second house placement. Now, this can bring about beautiful self-esteem energy, but we do need to be careful moving into it. This can also be a change in fortune financially, going from being employed to unemployed, employed to vice versa. But there can be a brand new energy coming through for you and money coming. But initially, some may go out prior to it returning, but there is a transformation in your fortune sector. I do feel during this transit with the heavy Cancer placements, and the reason I say heavy is because Mars is in the house of Cancer. Emotions may be coming up. The eclipse in Gemini can be thought actions, people needing to put their best foot forward, everyone emotionally feeling quite tense. We're not going to get the best out of every human being at this point, but we can do our best. That's one thing I will say. So if you are feeling let down, you have too much on your plate, remember, brother, father, sister, whoever can be experiencing those dynamics too. It's a very tense time. I do feel with your zodiac sign, it's important to look after your nervous system, because we do have the Uranus and Taurus energy is also a nervous and auric system. So eating things so that tension, your health is controlled, that you are in your optimum, way of being grounded, but also being flexible, being prepared for change, yin or yang. Do expect change. Some of these things may have played out around February. You can look back to when the first square occurred, which was February the 17th. We had Mercury around that time retrograde in the house of Aquarius. And we also had the first square of Uranus and Taurus to Saturn in Aquarius. Now, I would say at the moment, there can be a lot relating to your career sector. You may be having thoughts on this, how you can balance things out, how you can move forward. And I do feel you'll get clarity, but I feel it's more as a Neptune retrogrades that you'll see such. Okay, Virgo. This can be a very hard transit for you guys, I will say. We had the first eclipse in the house, the fourth house, which was Sagittarius. And the eclipse in Gemini is hitting your career sector, and there can be domestic related situations going on. There can be spiritual obligations. It can be your value systems. You're needing to be home, but you're needing to be at work. This can be local or long distance, and it's this push-pull energy. So automatically, yes, there can be tensions, but we can find solutions. Initially, we may not find solutions. One shoe don't fit all. So there can be testing emotions relating to such, and it feels ethical, moral, spiritual, psychological. And again, your hopes and dreams, it's really challenging them and knowing that all the cards are going to fall where they're going to fall, but having faith in that. I do feel your mind can be very firm on circumstances due to the eclipse being in Gemini, but because the eclipse relates to both Cancer and the Sun, and the Sun currently is in the house, your 12th house. So you may experience headaches. You may be up in your head quite a bit trying to find solutions, but trying to be quite strong. If emotions are coming up, yes, air the dirty laundry, but be mindful that everyone could be quite triggered. Some things may not be as bad as you think, if articulated effectively, but we can never have control over how others can directly receive that. So try and have faith in the process. But many of you, and my throat keeps going, may have that need to actually communicate your truth to do with the situation. Capricorn. We are going to be having a full moon after this cycle, and it is going to be in the house of Capricorn. So definitely with Pluto retrograde in the house of Capricorn, you can be really having to let go of things psychologically and emotionally to do with yourself. This can be an emotional time. We are having the eclipse in your sixth house, and really pay close attention to your emotions, your well-being, your health, running around too much, getting run down. We can be prone to eat healthy, wash the surfaces, you know, keep the environment clean. Because again, 6th house and it being Gemini, which can be consumption, we can actually, you know, food poisoning and things to that degree. And again, it's more from an astrological point of view than a prediction. So, you know, practicing good PPE, looking after your auric field, not overwhelming yourself, but de-stressing, doing things to actually look after yourself to de-stress. Okay, water signs, Cancer, Scorpio, Pisces. Now, as I mentioned, the eclipse is happening in the house of Gemini. For you guys, you are moon energy, so you're deeply intuitive, very similar to Pisces. Again, you can be experiencing some headaches, especially because of where the eclipse is occurring. You do have the eclipse in your 12th house. This can be thoughts that you're going through. It can be creative ideas. You may have to think on analytics quite a bit. You also may be coming to terms with things that occurred in the past. Do protect your head, okay? We can be more accident prone at this time. But definitely you may find that you have a revelation and an epiphany. On the work front and really relating to you, you can be very critical towards how people take you, because we have both Mars and Venus. Venus will be moving into Cancer. We can be feeling as though with, you know, Venus in Cancer that you know, that nurture need. We can be looking at needs that we actually have, and maybe even looking at needs that other people are needing from us, but we haven't been reciprocal as such. And it doesn't mean to say that your intent hasn't been there, but you can be really meditating upon how you have been showing up, what your needs are, how you feel. But I do feel a lot of revelations to do with such. You do need to be careful to not run yourself down. It can also feel very personal during this time, and crosswires can occur. I do feel you might find a key to maybe a spiritual blockage that you had, maybe an emotion that you hadn't actually looked at. But I feel as it moves forward, you can become more grounded, and this revelation can actually free you to move forward more fiercely. Now, with the full moon in Capricorn, this can be an ending of a contract. This can be you coming to terms with something, you letting an emotional energy go, or physically an ending of a cycle. But that's happening as we move forward. But this also during this eclipse could be coming up. Scorpio. Again, because we do have Pluto retrograde, emotionally speaking, you guys can be really deeply in your mind and reflective, and you're a very intuitive sign. We had the eclipse, the first eclipse hit your 2nd house, and this one is going to hit your 8th house. So this can be anything to do with taxation. This can be to do with your waiting on information to come through, finalizing documents, and deeper intimacy. I do feel because the square is occurring in your 7th house, this can be a change in fortune. This can be expect the unexpected, both romantically, physically, as well as with the foods that you're eating. Emotions can come up. Being careful to, you know, pay attention to your health. Some of you also can feel that your values are misunderstood, and value systems with Mars in Cancer in your 9th house can be a bugbear. You may feel that you have to prove yourself to individuals. You may feel that you are needing to upskill or needing to be something more. But you may change your perspective on such as we move forward. I do feel a lot of you have been working very hard and trying to challenge your emotions during this time. And you may be rejecting some paradigms that you have felt were projected towards you. Now, this could be, it's the 9th house, which is the house of religion. This can be appeasing people. It can be feeling unaccepted, feeling misunderstood, and feeling part of a community and tribe. Now, this can be at work, in love, point blank zero. You may be feeling a little bit like the black sheep of the family at the moment, but it isn't permanent, but it can be a rough ride. I do feel try not to cause any conflict on the work front, but if you feel it doesn't resonate with you, take direct steps. You may have more revelations after the point we have Neptune going retrograde. I feel you may gain some sense of clarity. Pisces, let's have a look at your sign. And then I think we've done them all. Pisces. Okay. Currently we have Jupiter in Pisces. Now it is going to be set to go retrograde very soon. You may be, from a personal level, looking at things and feeling quite confused. You really need to be careful driving. You really need to pay attention and not rush. This can also be surrounding a family-related dynamic, and you may want this situation to come to an end. You may have emotions relating to your childhood and your family or children. And again, you may wish them all to get along. You may be concerned of where the industry of work is going and how to shift that circumstance about. And I do feel home-based businesses can be quite beneficial, especially with Gemini in the 4th house placement. I do feel this area will settle down, but this can be a time where conflict can arise. And I also feel that you may be changing your viewpoint when it comes to your friendship groups. And this can be under reflection, but you know, you can be looking at a lot of wounds at the moment. I really do feel Jupiter going retrograde in Pisces is going to give you a lot of insight, especially as Neptune goes retrograde. You may feel that you will see things very differently. This may operate much better for you than you think. Any last thoughts? Pay attention to your heart health as we move forward, because we are having the 6th house activated. This can be heart, it can be strength and vitality, you know, overdoing things, making sure that you are doing things that are healthy for the heart, especially for you, Pisces. Now, with all this Mercury energy, yes, you can expect pretty severe weather patterns, so do be prepared for such. Okay, I did share a post on my personal page, and this was on Facebook. I haven't actually shared it to the platform, but I'm going to share it with you guys because it was a bit of a revelation, and especially with the nodes in both Sagittarius and Gemini, plus we're having eclipse season, so, you know, we're moving through this portal. Not right away do we get the transformation and change. Sometimes it can come through a little bit ugly, and sometimes we merely need perspective. And it doesn't mean to say that I'm the one with the perspective, because even I am a student of universe, and I think it's so fitting that I've got the jumper done time on, because I always connotate this to the realm of spirituality. It's like, you know, having to learn these hard lessons, having to be a student at all times, and to go through that transformative stage. And it was a question I posed as I was having a light bulb moment, so to speak. So I thought I'd share it with you. And initially I shared it in the format of a question. And of course people probably thought it was about me, but it was just a question. I asked this question general in nature tonight. Question. If you were owed an inheritance, would you wait for it to survive? Or would you make life and take it by its handles? So I left it there, and there was a lot of people that did comment. And of course, we kind of can be very tunnel visioned in orientation when sometimes it's quite rhetorical in nature, because life is quite open-ended, really. We've got so many different subject matters. We've got value systems, we've got religion, we have our strict routine, we have our conditioning. And when you start digging deep into human psychology, we actually understand a lot of our experiences from our past. And Sagittarius happens to be the South Node, which is now we are learning to leave that in the past. But it's not that we never take it with us. It's that it transforms through our education and upgrade. So Sagittarius can be the realm of religion, beliefs. It can be, you know, to do with all sorts that we can see happening in the collective. And of course, with the nodes in Gemini, it's us being a student, being the jack of all trades, hearing a lot of people's perspectives. And then you add Mars in Cancer. And it kind of brings all that, the hurts and the pains and the values all up. And sometimes we need to look at those values, whatever they are to us, which it's not that anything is wrong or right. It's understanding that we're getting a bunch of conversations and we're putting it in one room and hoping for the best. So the question above was a general one. It's like a left or right, but emotions involved to make it more complex. It all depends on your upbringing, your ego. Ego is, as I mentioned, is not what you think. What painful experiences shaped you? What coping mechanisms you developed? We can never speak for another. One is not all. I call it the Cinderella effect. It's trying to get that shoe to fit everyone. Impossible. Not every person is responsible to make their tribe shine. But 9 times out of 10, society's expectations are so. Not every human being is seeing it through the same lens. The above can relate to a million things: race, family, values, the past, healing, ethics, morals, and what we are talking about in the collective, which is, do we take it or don't we? And I'll talk rhetorically. One shoe won't fit all. It's pointless to feel it could, should, or would. It never will. I can smile, be the difference, and have ethics and morals, but if you have passed a person that looks like me, that's hurt you, your ego has a preconceived notion. The buck stops with you. If a person betrays you, the world won't stop singing love songs. For it's you to heal. If you enter a new connection, it is still a you issue because it occurred, right? And it's hard because when it does happen, it's almost like we ask ourselves, and this is just one experience and one example of challenges we have in everyday life. How do you move beyond the wound? One could say we could remove it. And, you know, there was one celebrity in the media that did bring this theory up. And it is because we do have the astrology moving this way. They do have Gemini in their chart in a position, I believe it's Mercury. And let me think of her name. I can't stop. Anyway, she made a comment and it was related to health and walking into a restaurant, and due to people with eating conditions, society had to change. And we are always changing, we're always evolving, and it's not that it's right, it's not that it's wrong, but it was an experience due to a wound that was then communicated, Mercury. So, if a person betrays you, cheats, the world will not stop singing love songs. It's for you to heal. If you enter a new connection, it is still a you that is healing, okay? Moving forward is always going to be a challenge. It's not impossible. It's about you. When you see such, you are no longer a hostage of the ghosts of your own past, but one of an accountability for our path and actions and words. And now I've got a phone call coming through. Mercury. My heart is both Martin Luther King and John Lennon. Again, everyone has an opinion. An ego of values, healing is a maze. Don't get caught up in the old stories. They were from where you came. You are who you are today is as important. A victim is a person who experienced an injustice. A perpetrator is that of a person who inflicted. An enabler indulges another. A codependent gives the power away and requires outside of self. We all fall into it. Growing, learning, we may see our personal rabbit hole cycle. Food for thought, enjoy the healing ride. No wrong or right, just a path, how you experienced it can be the key. Being a victim occurred. Are you still? Being a perpetrator doesn't mean you can turn time back, nor that you can change by beating that human being up, which is then revenge and abuse. You then become the perpetrator. The revolving door enabling is more about you than the other. It's control and expectations, as well as an unhealthy attachment to codependency, is where you are dependent on another. Avoidance of self, avoidance of transformation. Food for thought. So these cycles, you know, in healing, it is like a rabbit hole, you know, and when we have the awareness of psychology, our values, we feel we betray it if we leave it behind. And it doesn't mean we need to leave it behind. It means we can acknowledge ourselves very separately to the paradigm as an individual and think uniquely. Give it 2 weeks. Allow what is going to happen to digest. Sit with the energy and enjoy the meditation. I'll see you on the other side. We're going to take a little bit of time to breathe. Like in the eye of a storm. When the overwhelm comes, sometimes we need a moment. A moment to be able to understand, and sometimes maybe we can't. It doesn't mean we need to change our moral compass. And maybe some preconceived notions we have may be challenged. But we can pause before casting judgment. A solution will come. Taking a deep breath in and a deep breath out. Your wound is important, but so too are others. When we're frustrated, so too are others. When we're scared, so too are others. When we're misunderstood, so too are others. Collectively, we are not alone. Collectively, we can heal. Don't get angry if somebody isn't there yet, because the anger can be deep within. It can be with ourselves, with our healing, with our frustrations, with our disempowerment. But inner peace is perfectly available. This one moment, in the eye of whatever storm comes, you have heart. Love and light, guys. I'll see you on the other side. Thanks for joining us for the update. If you do want more content like this, please remember to click the bell and subscribe, as well as we do have the Members Zone. Now, the Members Hub has all the pre-release content, twin flame coaching, and romance extension reads. So stay tuned, and I will see you live every Friday for the updates. Take care.